Welcome to this webinar. So off and on, Imarticus has been doing a repetitive webinars on certain topics which pertain to the more contemporary way of developing your skills. Contemporary in the sense which is more acceptable to the market today. And the reason being because market has come a long way in terms of doing a paradigm shift from a conventional mode of IT involving developments, projects, analysis, and the various key roles which used to be, used to drive the overall trend in an IT, and now how those roles have gone away, and we have shifted to some very different kind of roles, which are, finding the right flavor in plugging on to the more new generation technologies, and it promises to be the roles in the next at least coming 5 to 10 years. So since the paradigm is shifting fast, hence the roles are also shifting fast, and hence the need in the market, for prospective employers to look for the candidates who have a certain amount of domain experience, followed by some kind of a new gen skills which they may have learned over a period of time. Over a period of time, I have often faced a question from my audience that if we are not, let's say, typically IT specialists, if let's say we don't come from a technology and a programming background, do we have a space in the IT sector? And my answer to all of them has been an emphatic yes. Because when you say I am from a certain domain, I assume you have been into either a customer facing role, you have been into a front ending role which involved maybe customer service, it was more on marketing, it was more on logistics, it could have been a supply chain management role. It can be a role, for example, where you dedicate your skills to, let's say, networking, you dedicate it to communications, you dedicate it to pharmaceuticals. So you can come from any background. The point here is, can there be a passage in which we can use these expertise and skills in which you have, let's say, worked in a pharmaceutical industry, for example, for 3 or 4 years? Does that come in handy in case you want to shift to IT? Yes, there is an answer to that, and the answer is you can start your careers in IT as a business analyst. When I say business, it says someone who has come from the business side, which in this case could be, let's say you're employed with Airtel, you're with Vodafone, so you come from communication business. You're employed with, a pharmaceutical company, that's pharma for you. You're employed with a product company which looks at, let's say, fast moving consumer goods. You're employed with more, with supply chain management. Why? Because your role entails to look after sales, logistics, product movements, etc., etc. Now, the point here is, guys, that how do we inculcate those skills? How do we shift our paradigm from a non-IT to an IT? And in case we shift to an IT, what it is going to be? Yeah. So that is what we need to understand from this perspective. Okay. All right. So let's step into it, where I would like to explain to you, because to be honest with you guys, I have come via a similar route. So I was on the domain side for supply chain many years back, and I came into the IT via the role of a business analyst, where I was able to leverage on the knowledge and experience that I had in sales and logistics. So I knew a little about customer front ending, about channel partner management, and I knew about product movement. I knew about the way the product flows into the warehouses. We store it, we stock it, and then we ship it again to as a confirmed quantity to a customer. So it was a very sales centric role, but I would call it a domain role because I leveraged on the process centricity which I had from this kind of a domain, and the same thing which all you can do. This means, where are we going? We are going towards IT, where the employers look forward to a person who's from any domain, and hence he is or she is expected to know those processes. All right. And then how do we combine that with technology so that you can act as an intermediate between business and technology, which means one foot on the business side and in the same domain where you came from, and one foot in the technology side, so that you do not belong to IT overall. You no longer belong to only that business, but you come as an interface or an integrating point between the two, because now you have shaped yourself by learning the new skills of business analysis, and now you relied on your business, which is the prior experience, and you've learned something which is more congenial to an IT interface, and that's how you come into an IT. So I did this some kind of maybe 13 14 years back, and henceforth I've been encouraging professionals like me who have a similar profile to probably follow a similar path. Okay, but we are not talking here only from a business analyst perspective. We are also talking here from uh, someone who can act more than a business analyst. Of course, you start your career as a business analyst because that's the first step which you take when you step into IT, right? And then you start realigning. So you become like a technocrat, you become like a functional guy, you become like a business guy. So it's like a mix of all. Yeah. Okay. So let's go into it. In this session, guys, I just wanted to expose you to some kind of more of a personal experiences that I have, and also more of the an observation that I've seen being in this field for the last more than a decade. So I want to share with you what are the global and industry trends which are leading to enterprise wide change, uh, how business analysts are acting as agents of change into 21st century, how you can be the agent of change that organizations are looking for, how you can perform the role of a business analyst in an agile team. So that's the second part of the story. So first half is that you are a business analyst, and the second half is how does IT react to it? Well, IT needs people who can talk to business, who can understand their requirements, and when they bring in the requirements go to the IT development team, which is a like a typical development team or a technology team, which helps to shape those requirements into functionalities which they deploy back into the IT system. So what are we working on here? We are working to enable the business user who said, "Hey, I need to uh, I need to have certain new way of doing business." But since business is driven primarily from the IT systems, it's our job to make sure that those functionalities are somewhere put into the IT system so that the user uses the front face or the graphical user interface of his desktop and laptop, which is further connected to the server, to the business server, from where those functionalities are available. So if your business user wants to, let's say, ship the quantities to the customer maybe 20% faster than what they do now, this means we need to understand their business requirements, how to ship products faster. And how do we ship faster? Well, the product comes from the central plants into the central warehouses, from where they go to the regional warehouses, from where they are shipped across to the customer. This means this entire value chain, which let's call it supply chain, has to be optimized, made more efficient, faster, better, more accurate, and more precise. Now, for that, we probably as business analysts have to understand the process of the client first, and then we have to see that how we can optimize it to save effort or time or cost which is currently involved in it. So hence it's a very suitable skill where you understand the requirements from business, and hence you need to have that understanding of that business thanks to you coming from the same domain, plus you have now learned and are certified in business analysis, so you know those tools, techniques, you know that kind of a confidence and with authority that what kind of a technique would you like to implement as a business analyst, so you're able to get the right requirements out of it. Now, so this is basically, guys, the career path which we want you to step into. Okay, and business analyst is not the only path, because today again IT has churned itself, which means now they are looking forward to the fact that if, let's say, Mr. X is a business analyst, he or she can step into the the development path which is offered by the technology teams, which means traditionally business analysts explain that kind of a path, to the development team or IT teams who understand that from a business process perspective, and then they try some configuration change in the software setting. They do write certain new codes, to make the process run in a slightly different way, right? And then they test it out, and then they deploy it back into the system, all right? And then the user checks it out and says, okay, if I use that functionality now, it seems like I have achieved a 20% faster way of doing business than before. All right. So that is the basically role when you come in as a business analyst, but you also graduate into the role of a development manager, which is nothing but the current, the new generation, better, faster, and more expedited way of doing software development is called the agile way. And there's a role in it called agile coach or scrum master, because scrum is the most famous methodology of being agile. So you get to understand the scrum part as well. So then where do we go? Well, you and overall, you're managing the whole project, which began as a business analyst, and you took care of it. You bought the requirements from business, you explained that to the IT teams, and then they worked according to your ideas and guidelines to do an actual software development by doing configuration change, programming, testing, etc. So you don't have to be a programmer, you don't have to be a configurator, you don't have to be a tester, but you need to know those methodologies again, which is typically under an agile way of working. So then what are we combining here for you? We are combining the dual role of a business analyst and a scrum master. And combined together, typically these things in the industry are known as a change manager. So you are being groomed to be a change manager. That's the whole story around here. Yeah. Okay, now that we have understood the crux of the things, let's start going into the sliders and see what they have for us. So, the International Institute of Business Analysis, the global body which gives the highest order of business analyst certification, they define business analysis as a practice of enabling change in an enterprise or a company by defining the needs and recommending solutions. So business analysis enables a company or enterprise to articulate needs and the reason for change. And then it ends up designing that change. And then it ends up delivering that change in the IT systems. Yeah. So this is the long and short definition of a business analyst. So there's a lot on the shoulder of business analyst because he or she has the business stakeholders to explain their process, and they expect the business analyst to understand that and come out with certain gaps which today are plaguing the efficiency of the system. So how to make it better? And then they expect the business analyst to explain those requirements in more of a business analysis terminology to a development team so that they can then do the necessary build up in terms of creating the right configurations or codes or etc which the IT system needs to be driven in that particular way. And then that reorganized IT system goes in front of the user, and the user says, hey guys, you really changed my system, right? So then the user needs certain training, because now that old way of working has changed. You have stepped into a new way of working, and that's what I call an overall change manager. So you combine quite a bit of skills in you, and to be honest, these are very new generation skills, and that is something, guys, which we need to understand properly here. Okay, great. So look at the slider which says that the global and industry trends are really changing, because today the way that the businesses and the millennials operate are in a very demanding environment. There is very much of an individualization of businesses. There is a demand for the latest tools and technology because everything is more technology driven now. There is a digital disruption which has come in the last 3 to 4 years. We don't have that liberty of a very handsome cash flows anymore, so we have to be very optimal in terms of our overheads and the capex and the opex. We need somebody who can do some critical strategic decision making. Yeah. And of course, let's not forget that a lot of business and technology today moves on the social platforms as well. So there's a mix of digital, there's a mix of social engineering, there's a mix of individualization, which means, guys, as we talk this afternoon on these changes, enterprises are undergoing major changes. So this means that the new times which are already there, they will need individuals who understand this change. And that's why organizations today need not like more of a generalist, but they need more creative specialists, people who can actually dedicate some sixth sense to understand where the organization stands today and why, and how they can take it forward. And if you see, this is all nothing but a good change, and hence the change manager. And if we talk about the change manager, it's a change on the business side and on the IT side. Business side change you affect as a business analyst. IT side change you affect as a scrum master. Put together, you're the person which probably the world may be looking at. All right, so 21st century came, and honestly, the technology movements were fast and furious. We see that most of the players within the same industry are at an absolute competitive edge over each other. So somebody makes an innovation, he steps a step ahead, and then obviously the other player responds with some kind of again a different kind of innovation. So the point here is that while this accelerated way of innovation enhances its trends, we are looking at reduced cost, we are looking at improving the capabilities, the organizations are looking at providing a better customer value, okay, and they want to keep moving very fast. So looking at this overall thing, you know the 21st century is actually challenging the organization, the basic way they operate, the basic way they manage the changes which are coming, either in terms of process or technology or the organizational way of working. So that's why, guys, the traditional jobs are changing. And that's where, the value of a business analyst who can focus on strategy, innovation, and the value management which we provide to the customer. And hence, we need that kind of a talent in today's market. And because business analysts can do critical thinking, they can adapt, they can make the organization invent, reinvent, collaborate, and keep innovating. And I think that's a large chunk of fresh breath of competitive advantage which they bring in, and hence the need for them to be in the organization at the right path. If you look at this slide, it kind of tells us that how the traditional business analysis has now gone into a very breakthrough kind of a business analysis. If we see at the current business analysis, it's more at an enterprise level, it's more at an innovation level, whereas the earlier path of the story was more at a project level only. So BAs used to come, plan, try to do some requirement elicitation from business, analyze the requirements, and then communicate them. That was a traditional business analysis practice. Then came the breakthrough business analysis, where today they are much sought after because they need to do more of a strategic analysis. Why? Because organizations are not only at operational level anymore. If they have to survive, if they have to prosper, if they have to gain that competitive advantage over the next competitor, they need to be doing certain strategic analysis. So who will do an analysis at a strategy level, tactical level, operational level? Well, generally it's the business analyst who does that. So business analysis obviously brings very interesting facets about it, because you need to you learn how to analyze the current overall persona of an organization from a process perspective, from a business analysis perspective, from the current tech tools and technology perspective, from how are they placed in the market as of today. So all those things bring in the necessary trends in the thinking. So today the organizations are not looking at some kind of a capability improvement, they're looking at a breakthrough in capability, which means that obviously because the demand of the times is that the world is changing so rapidly, and hence the business can either innovate or they can simply evaporate. Yeah. So to prevent from getting evaporated, what does kind of a breakthrough value based business analysis look like? That's something probably what we can learn today under the certification offered by the business analysis practices. Yeah. So guys, one thing is clear: cost optimization, good; effort saving, great. But honestly, the real essence of the story is more of, it's all about value. So what any department does today, so let's say in a typical company, we have a procurement department who is responsible to procure the raw materials or a semi finished materials, so that we can shape it up more before we ship it to our customers. There's a sales department which cares for the customers. There's a customer support relationship. There is a finance department. There's a business intelligence department. Now, all of them used to be departments. Today, most of them are turned out to be value departments, which means their idea is not just to do their job and do it well. The idea is to create a value for the customer for every process that they do in their daily walk of life. That's what is called the value engineering. And honestly, it's more of a, it's the business analyst is probably the person who can have this tactical understanding. Yeah. And help to effect the change into the organization. So of course this is not an easy role, of needless to say. So there are high risk and high rewards as well. But the fact is that when you come in with a certain advantage. You come in at an advantage because you've been through the same processes where you have been working for last maybe a year, 2 years, or 3 years, whether be it pharmaceutical, communication, telecom, network, supply chain, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, everything is a domain, and everything can be used. All right, so guys, the new business analysis has emerged because the CIOs realized, that the BA role is at the heart of the future success. So honestly, the market has come alive with the demand for business analysis, and it's not just now. It's going on for the last almost 3 years now, where the heart of the success remains with the fact that who is the one who is able to analyze the requisite, in a more microscopic way. The better the analysis, the better will be the game plan for the organization to be future ready. Yeah. So recognizing the value of these experienced and focused professionals, right, whether they are from any domain, it's a need of the IT today to take you in, to groom you further into technology so that you can provide the value by combining the business and the technology skills together. Yeah. So that is how business analysis is moving forward fast. All right. So what kind of activity do you do as a business analyst? Well, 80% of your role stays on tactical and operational analysis, which means you 80% of your time you will be observing the current process, the way a company services its customers, the way they create a value today. Are they optimal enough? Or by a simple benchmarking against the industry standards, you get to know that an X player in a fast moving consumer durable is very different way. I mean, they act in a different way altogether, unless it's very innovative. You can probably just do a simple benchmarking to know that the key performance indicators, which are an established way of working in a particular industry, are very different from a particular player. So you will know whether the player is really smart in the way they work, or they're really lousy. So tactical and operational analysis is all about finding the requirements from your business stakeholders, doing some decision analysis, creating some kind of a draft solution, some kind of a basic design with the help of technology team, running past the business stakeholders in our solutions to get to understand that how do they go about that. Does it really fit their bill? If yes, then why? If no, then why not? Right? So this kind of an entire set of portfolio is your fundamental role. Then yes, you also help to support them in an operational way, which means there's a client which is currently running in their businesses, right? So they want to improve that with some kind of a continuous improvement. They want someone to come and check that when there is a failure, what is the root cause of the failure? What kind of a problem management can we do there? What kind of a deeper process analysis can someone do to get a better insight? That's how the business analyst role starts looking up very well. And then of course, today most of the customers, they are utilizing there's a creative studio with everybody, there's an innovation council, there are some dedicated teams which always are working on certain process improvements across, let's say, sales processes, finance processes, etc., etc. And that is where we say that the business analyst is the pivotal point who can help these teams to move ahead in such kind of a design thinking. So that design thinking also starts coming into your portfolio because you are working with teams which are going to do this. Okay. All right. So then let's not talk only about a business analyst. Well, you are the guys who are really going to make the business agile, make it move faster, better, more robust, and in a competitive, advantageous way. So let's call you agile business analyst. Also, from the fact that eventually you are going to support the IT teams who are into agile practices. Now, agile is, of course, more to do with an IT development. So I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm an agile guy, which means my reflex actions are fast. I can move fast physically and mentally. So just like the way agile is a methodology where we can end up doing software developments in a faster way. And hence we cut down on time to market. So this means if someone wants to launch a new product, and that kind of a product development life cycle can be speeded up because the way we want to develop the product is more via an agile way. We will say, okay, the time to market can be reduced. So agile is more of a method, which is used a lot in IT. So when you become an agile business analyst, which means you are a business analyst, but who is very compatible to work in an agile mode of working. Okay. And that's how, guys, when you come out in the market, you start laying the foundations for successful agile projects. Because every project will start by plugging on with business to get the right requirements and then developing those requirements typically in an IT way so that those requirements can be converted to the solution and deployed back into the systems, right? Which people can use them. So basically, this is how the agile business analysis guidance helps to train you to do these kind of activities which you see on the slider. So now, when I say an agile role, what does an agile analyst do? Yep. The agile analyst is now going to manage the planning process. They are going to manage the overall program schedule. Yeah. They are going to do release planning, retrospectives, tools to the people, enablement, training, risk assessment, etc., etc. Now, what you see here, guys, are all the typical steps of an IT project. So an agile analyst is able to comprehensively get the right requirements from the business analyst and arrange them in a certain prioritized sequential order so that the overlap with the customer is very strong even when you are doing the technology developments. But then this is the smarter way, and that's why it's agile, because in agile way there's a mandatory participation of the client businesses into this role in which they help to support and validate and review your developing software solution. So what happens is it's like a wonderful umbrella, an umbrella which oversees the requirements as they came from different departments and processes, and the same requirements which are now getting developed into software solution via the agile lifecycle. So, I mean, are we talking something really good here? I really think so, because you as a dual skilled person is able to retain the main fulcrum or the balancing act of that umbrella. Today market is looking not at singular skills anymore. They are looking at multiple skills within the same person, right? And so this is one unique way in which you can combine very synergistic skill sets within a larger role. So what happens is, then obviously the value of your CV or the value of your career starts looking good because you have learned something which is covering a large paradigm of activities. And the question is, are you the person who can help to contain those activities from a business and IT point of view? The answer is yes. So this means that this combined skills generally helps you to do a multitask role as well. And hence, I mean, that what do we call that multitask roles? Probably nothing but probably a project manager. Because of today's project manager are not just administrative project managers. They are not just the project manager who care for the client stakeholders. These are project managers who are subject matter experts as well. They come from a particular business from the background. They come from a certain specific role, which is either a business analyst or maybe an agile coach or scrum master. So this duality of various roles eventually helps you to move forward into the position of a project manager as well. Let me show you something interesting on the IT side. So when you say that in a typical IT cycle, this box which you see here in the red outline, that's typically which is the business team. So the client dedicates a certain set of teams, which are basically business users. They come from various departments. They come from procurement, sales, billing, marketing, all such departments. And there's a lead over them who's called the product owner. He's the owner of the product development life cycle that you're going to initiate now. Now, in this, what happens is that you as a business analyst sit somewhere here who's able to discuss with the product owner and the client teams what kind of a features do we need in the new product. So those features come from the fact that what kind of designs we need, what kind of functionalities we need, what kind of workability mode do we need this product to be in. And then you superimpose on top of it what kind of competition exists, how we can optimize this product from a cost point of view and from giving a better value than the competitor product. So all that feature engineering is accomplished by the business analyst who sits here, right, with the product owner and the team, etc., etc. Yeah. So that is how, guys, the story of a business analyst starts. But here, you're not just a business analyst, you're an agile business analyst. Why? Because right now, what you see on the slide is an agile way of doing software development. So there are feature engineering. This feature engineering goes into something called a sprint planning. Now, sprints is basically short cycles of software development, which last from 2 to 3 weeks. So within 2 to 3 weeks, you as a business analyst are able to break down the larger requirement of the business into smaller requirements. Those smaller requirements become the features. Those features get into a sprint planning, because within the next 1 to 4 weeks, when you're running a sprint cycle, you're expected to develop those functionalities in the system, via your team. So that's where the agile business analyst who was sitting here suddenly shifts the seat from here and starts sitting here as a scrum master, because now he's caring for the sprints. He's caring for the various bundle of sprints which are going to develop feature after feature after feature, and that bundle of sprints is nothing but it's a scrum. So Scrum is a bundling of sprints. So there's the master who understands the methodology of sprint management, who understands the way to sequentially arrange scrums, the runnings, so that eventually at the end of scrums, what we come upon is the right development of the product in the right way. And will you are capable to do that the right way, because never mind, because you bought the requirements in the first place from the business itself. So you knew the business point of view, you understood the business pain point, you took help of IT teams to develop some kind of a broad-based solution, you ran business through that, they validate those solutions, and now those solutions has jumped into the sprint cycle to be eventually developed at an IT solution. So don't you think that you are the guy who has been at the every crossroad or every border in which the function were understood, the processes were deciphered, the requirements were taken out, and then they were, brainstormed in order to make a certain specific solution about it? You have been at every border of this, because the critical involvement of business analysts in all these processes, and hence the value which you provide is tremendous, right? If you understand in the right perspective, guys, you can see that there is a tremendous powerful role which this business analyst or agile business analyst perform in today's IT industry, and they have been performing for last quite some few years now. And since this goes on ever increasing demand, and hence more and more need for such professionals who can come from a non-IT background but who has a certain domain understanding, and they can learn these new skills, and then they can become a perfect, like a marriage character who knows the past and who knows the present, and hence who can deliver the value for the future as well. So guys, essentially, if I look at from a very new generation point of view, I see that you somewhere will probably follow here, where there's a project initiation. All right, there's a certain vision about that product which evolves over a period of time, because you evolve the features which that product must have in order to make sure that the current pain points of business go away, because now we are developing a product which is going to cover up the shortfalls or the current lacunas in the process or on the product side. So that's why when you say I'm a agile business analyst, you can be deployed anywhere. You can be deployed with a product company, you can be deployed with a services company, but the fact remains that since you are generically upscaled to understand and derive out the requirements from any business, so technically you become process, I would say, domain agnostic after some time, and technology agnostic as well. And that's, it still is a generalist role, but still it's a specialized role. So this is the beauty of agile business analyst. Now let me ask you something, why you should choose the role of a business analyst. If you feel that you're doing the same routine task every day, and probably there's hardly any change to it, you are stuck to a certain process, you do the same process. For example, if you're an analyst in a backend, in a backend, let's say investment banking, you're responsible for certain transaction analysis. You do that every week and every month and every year. You feel that there's nothing different about it. Yeah. And when you feel that you're redundant probably in a way, and you may be replaced very fast because you do a very conventional way of conventional way of traditional practices, which do not entail any specific value. So you feel that you're not contributing probably no value, but you feel that you're not making much of an impact. And you feel sometimes that you're sitting in a corner working in isolation, where you are probably just doing a routine, kind of a mechanical work, week after week, month after month. If that is the thing, then I think you should probably start thinking seriously about what would you like to do now. And if it goes via the business analyst way, we would like you to be one who feels that they can bring some change, who can facilitate working with the people, right? Okay. Then who like troubleshooting, right? Who like to you who have a knack for improving certain things on a continual basis, and because of that you want to probably build some skills which are not really, which don't come and go away with times. You want to build up obviously a more promising career by stepping into some kind of a leadership skills, and you want to be a bit of more specialist than being just a utter journalist, right? So if this slide is something what you like, then I will rather encourage that you can think about a role like a business analyst. So what is the positioning in the industry for a business analyst, guys? So basically, you get into an executive role, which is reporting to the CXO club. You can have a client-facing roles. Most of the business analysts actually have a client-facing role, because you have to go over to the client. You have to do your homework before you go over to get to understand about their business and processes, and then you sit with them and you actually discuss face to face. You meet various kind of business stakeholders. They could be regional business leads. They could be project sponsors. They could be probably just a go down analyst. Now, since because your process today falls into the go downs, because on a storage and a stocking location process improvement, so you meet such stakeholders as well. So it doesn't matter, because you become a specialist to do a top down analysis or a bottom up analysis. But that's obviously a fantastic skill, because this skill helps you to adapt to most of the responsibility which you will eventually face in this role. Yeah. A lot of business analysts are part of strategy team. They are part of continuous improvement teams. They are part of change management team. Yeah, or they are part of the business assistance team. So there are plenty of roles where you can gain acceptance by the industry. So if I say what could be the top 5 reasons that you want to choose business analysis and Scrum as a career, I will say plain and simple, it offers you a variety of roles. Yeah. Because sometimes you're a business analyst and you're on the business side. Then you become a Scrum Master, you step into the IT cycle. Sometimes you're a change manager, so you are more on the business user side, right? So there's a fair amount of variety. And don't forget that today, if you become a business analyst, you're likely going to be put in a domain which is the same domain where you have been working for last probably 1 to 3 years. But slowly, when you become a seasoned business analyst, you might be shifting domains as well. So you will become domain agnostic. You will become technology agnostic. So that's like a lot of variety which comes in, because on a continual development basis, when I came into the business analysis practice, obviously I had to learn some part of the technology as well. So obviously, because when you go to the clients, they are sitting on different technologies. Now, if you're doing a business analysis, you might be eventually stepping into a technology analysis as well. So to do that kind of a due diligence in a promising way, eventually what happens is that most of the business analysts end up learning various technologies. And hence that helps them to become more of a techno-functional person as well. If you feel that operations and delivery are something which you find interest with, that's great, because most of the agile life cycle, right from the beginning of feature engineering to till all the way to the deployment of the product, it's all about a continual operations and delivery. If you think that during your job careers till date you have been able to participate even on a very small and a very simple process improvement, or a tool improvement, or a new design, or a new innovation, however small it might be, but even if it contributed 5 to 10% cost saving, value addition over and above what we were doing till now, I think that's one of the reasons why you may find this career very interesting. Leadership, needless to say, because these are roles which eventually take you onto a senior path, because the business analysts are typically who can handle business stakeholders, who can handle internal stakeholders, who can do that kind of a communications with the right size people. So hence leadership skills eventually come to you anyways via this rigor which you put in in this kind of a career path. And the last part is the perspective. So think about it, guys. If you're on the business side, you get very different perspective. Then you have to churn those perspectives in a format which IT people understand, so that IT team can get a hook point that what needs to be developed in order to develop this kind of a requirement for the business. So you shift the perspectives quickly. So that kind of a is something which really adds to the variety very well. Okay. Now, who can be a BA? I would say people from any kind of a domain, which could be IT, banking, which could be retail banking, corporate banking, investment banking. If you have a current role in finance, if you are an engineer with a manufacturing setup, if you are for telecom, but if you are in somewhere in the pharmaceuticals, in any role, you can be a sales guy, you can be a marketing guy, you can be a process guy, you can be an operational guy. Okay, you can be in customer support and service. All such skills are something which can equip themselves with with the business analysis and agile practices in order to become more value added, that's for sure. Yeah. So all right, so this is okay. So what do we learn really in a business analysis and an agile perspective? Let's look at what we learn from a business analysis perspective. We learn about the roles, classifications, underlying competencies. We learn about something on the software development lifecycle as well. We learn how business analysts can write effective requirements, whether they're in an agile mode or they are in a conventional mode of business analysis. Yeah. We learn how we can analyze the performance parameters which today's process or business needs in order to behave and perform better. We learn what kind of a recommendation and actions we need to do to make an enhancement to the solution. We learn how to make a business case, looking at what the as is and what the to be solution should be. Yeah. And we learn a lot about what kind of elicitation, business elicitation, requirement elicitation techniques that we need to know. So there is probably some 50 odd techniques which relate to the various scenarios which you will encounter in any project, and you will have to use a couple of those specific techniques in order to take out the right requirements from business, because that's the backbone of the project. Yeah. Then you learn about how to create a scope, remain within the scope in the project. So there's obviously a lot of project management which eventually comes into such things. Yeah. And if I take you to the agile and scrum part, you will probably learn what's the roadmap of agile. How can we initiate the right change within the agile life cycle, how there are different delivery models to execute agile, which essentially is probably the IT development. You learn how to work in a multi-vendor environment. Yeah. You learn what are the smart tricks and tips of being a successful scrum master for any IT development agile team. You learn about the metrics of agile. So eventually, guys, what happens is that you are able to predict what kind of scenarios should be tailored in an agile mode of working, or probably in a more of a conventional mode of working. Yeah. Okay, good. So guys, I want to now open this this meeting for probably some questions from your side. So if you can please type anything that you want to type in those. Oh, I see that there are already quite a few questions. Okay, so let me quickly go through them, as I would like to answer most of them. So the first question is, Agile is a methodology to develop a software. That's right. But you don't become a software expert, to be honest. You remain at the supervisory level, who can coach, guide, and direct a team how to do developments in a faster way. So it's just a smarter way of doing software development. For software, even today, you will have to, somebody in the team will have to write a functional specification, technical specification, do some software programming, configurations, etc. But how they can do it in a faster way is all that you need to tell them. So that's the more agile way of working. Yeah. Okay, so the second question is business analysis and Scrum Master course beneficial for a non-tech manager with 11 years of experience? Yes, of course it is. To be honest, as I explained right from the beginning, guys, this is a course which is good for IT guys. It's a course which is also very good for the non-IT guys, because typically you come from a certain domain. So for example, if you come from, after 11 years of work X, you come from a certain business or a certain domain, all that is going to be leveraged very well when this course is going to create a business analyst out of you. So you do not start from scratch at all. In fact, the 11 years of work X is considered very worthy, so you generally start at a senior position. But now that senior position entails doing something new and something fresh, because you've already gotten certified in it. And that's how it's a win-win situation for all of us. Okay. All right. So then another question says, this business analyst will be needed, in DevOps method as well. So honestly, the agile way of working honestly spills over to the DevOps, because DevOps is development and operations coming together. Now, when the agile way of working happens, you're already part of the development team. And now the development team is going to develop the functionalities, which, and then a certain operation team, which when we deploy that functionalities into the server, so operation team is able to use that functionality. So basically a business user uses that, and then IT team which supports the user also ends up using it. So DevOps is obviously a faster way to integrate whatever agile team has developed, how to quickly integrate that into the production server so that the user can use it quickly. So yes, eventually, as you can see, it's a value chain, so it connects up. So next question is there any standard industry accepted certification that one can do to move into this role? Yes. So I think Imarticus, for example, offers a certification which is certified by IIBA, the Indian International Institute of Business Analysis. So it's a certified course which they're running for last, I guess, 4 years now, which you can take, and then you can get certified in business analysis. That certification is recognized very well because it's actually given by IIBA itself. So and then of course they have another, the same course is also certified by SAP, but that is for the technology side, which is more for the agile side. So Imarticus offers that course, which is which is certified by IIBA for the BA part and certified by SAP for the technology or the agile part. So this kind of certifications obviously stand out and make you stand out in the market. Yes, you're right, Sneha. Babok 3 has many more tools and technologies, as rather than what is suggested in the PPT. So to be honest with you, there are almost like close to 50 techniques. But obviously, as you can understand, the limitations offered to me by a single slide, and that too, I was given a small corner to mention some of the top, techniques. So yes, you are taught all those 50 techniques. Because typically you don't end up using one or two or three techniques, you end up using a multiple choice of techniques to validate the requirements. So yes, you're obviously taught all those techniques so that you can use a combination of many of them to get a very secure and precise requirements out from the business. So one question is, will Scrum Master be used in RPA technologies? So to be honest, today the robotic process automation, the RPA part, is somewhere where we are creating for standardized tasks. We are creating those kind of solutions which are auto driven. For example, I create an auto script. What does that auto script do? Every day at 4 p.m. it is going to download a certain data from a website. It is going to change that, collate that data into a certain folder. From the folder, another set of auto script is going to pick up the data and churn it and then create a certain output of it. Now, this is a routine task which today probably some people do. Tomorrow, I'm going to create a robotic process automation, which is just like an automated script, which is simply going to routinize this task. And since it is obviously more precise, I'll be saying, hey, for the routinized task, I'm able to create an RPA. Great. But RPA again are typically going to be done for those activities in any project where we are going to save some effort and hence save some cost, right? And that is some nothing but an optimizing the process. So if optimizing the process involves RPA, so RPA becomes a tool for the business analyst to use that and recommend that in order to create a differentiation in the cost structures of today and tomorrow. So obviously all that gets terrifically interlinked, and that is why you eventually become a like a like a person who's able to effect that change in a positive way for any organization. The other question is, what are the certifications from Agile? So yes, I mean you can become an agile coach, but typically, I mean, since Scrum is one of the most famous methodologies, the CSM Scrum Master, is a big certification, and that's an external certification. But in case you want to take a faster route to become a Scrum Master, then for example, Imarticus offers you that within a part of this larger program called Agile Business Analyst. Yeah, so you learn the Agile and Scrum way of working. You learn the Business Analyst way of working. So that helps you to get into role of a Scrum Master. The one question is, can a fresher? What's the role of a fresher here? So, guys, basically, a fresher, if I assume, has absolutely no work experience. So, what they can do is they can learn these, these methodologies, and they can start probably at a junior analyst level. So it's all right if you have an absolute lack of any work experience and you don't come from, I mean, domain or a certain technology at all, which is fine, because eventually for every project we also have some kind of a junior roles, which is which are people who can do the fundamental analysis. Maybe they don't step into the core way of interacting with stakeholder or business, but that's how you can learn and eventually get seasoned enough to do those roles. So yes, there is a opportunity for freshers as well. So, we don't really, if you have some work experience, that's very good, because, it'll help to you to leverage on that very well. But if there's no number of years of experience, frankly, if somebody said in this questions, I have a 11-year work ex. So obviously, guys, for 11 years, if that person he has been working in certain process, certain way, certain domain, or certain setup, right? So eventually, a generic by default value comes to the person anyways. Now, if a 11-year experienced person and a 2-year experienced person learns this within this course curriculum and gets certified, obviously the previous background of knowledge and experience is obviously looked upon as well. So obviously the 11-year guy has to start on a senior business analyst role, and probably the 2-year work ex guy has to start probably on a more junior role. So that's probably just a difference in scale. But in terms of how your ability to leverage on your previous knowledge and work experience, yes, obviously it will be more for the person who's 11 years of work experience. So it does make a difference, obviously, yes. Okay, guys, so we still have 5 minutes. If you would like to give any more questions, I'm absolutely ready to answer. I see that we have probably exhausted the list of questions for now. If you have any more question, guys, any clarity, if you have a viewpoint which you want to explore, you can please shoot it off now, or else you can get in touch with the Imarticus. A counselor is going to take care of you, and they're going to make sure that your clarities are achieved. And in case you still want to go forward because you see a clear value add which you can load onto yourself via these certification, I think you should probably go ahead in that way. Okay, so the next question is, what will be the course duration? So, guys, the course duration in this particular Imarticus model is almost 3 months, which means 2 months of business analysis certification, 1 month of Agile certification or Scrum Master certification, and that is followed by a deeper overview of SAP as the mainline ERP or technology as well. So that takes certain session, and then I think they prep you up for interview preparations, they make you market ready, they groom your confidence. So all that probably takes another probably 15 odd days. So yes, I mean the total duration is 3.5 months, where I guess they conduct these courses on the weekends so that your weekdays are not disturbed. So all in all, guys, it's something like 120 hours exercise in this particular course. All right, guys. So I guess are we done with this then? So that's fine, guys. I think no, this course is not only available online; it is available offline as well. So I guess Imarticus has almost like 10 centers across all India. They are there in Mumbai, they are there in Pune, they are there in Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, Gurgaon. So most of these major centers are covered, including Hyderabad. So you can either choose that, you can walk into an Imarticus center and check it out, or of course they have a very good online presence as well for this change for this agile business analysis course perspective. So yes, you can probably choose whatever you fit best.